Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything is Energy. Welcome to the weekly astrology forecast for the week of today, June 7th, through next Saturday, June 13th, 2026. The theme this week is, excuse me, starting off with emotional nourishment and moving into heart-led expansion. And so, as it sounds, that's bridging two pretty different energies this week. And it has a lot to do with Lady Venus, and I'll get to why. But in a high view, we have Cancer's focus on emotional nourishment, belonging, and care at the beginning of the week. And that's because Venus and Jupiter are conjoining together in the sign of Cancer. And it's worth just saying out the front that that is going to be one of the most emotionally nourishing and supportive aspects of the entire month of June. And it's going to bring a sense of just kind of remembering what really matters to us. But then by the end of the week, by the time we get to next Saturday, we have Venus entering into Leo, and that's going to be a very different energy because that's going to bring warmth and creativity and courage and visibility and heart-centered expression back into the foreground. At the same time, Uranus is active this week, and it's activating the collective field through some squaring of the nodes. And so just out the gates, this week is really asking us, how do we nourish ourselves enough to fully show up? Also, how do we move from emotional security into authentic self-expression? So let's get started with today. We only have one aspect on June 7th, and it happens at 8:02 p.m., and it's Mars quintiling the North Node. And this is going to give the energy of purposeful movement. It's a subtle energetic activation. The North Node is subtle energy, but we have Mars in Taurus. Actually, Mars isn't always comfortable in Taurus, but Mars in Taurus quintiling the North Node in Pisces, that's some harmonic energy, and it's helping us to align our action with our purpose. So this may show up as some kind of an insight that we have that'll make us more productive per se. It might give us a practical next step or some renewed motivation. Maybe even just a feeling that, our efforts are really beginning to move in the right direction. But also, this isn't dramatic energy. This isn't necessarily loud energy, but it is very much effective energy. And so the invitation is to trust small and meaningful actions. And then moving on to Monday, June 8th, we have a day of healing through understanding. Chiron is active on Monday at around 11:30 in the evening. Mercury is quintiling Chiron. And this is going to give us an opportunity for insight and for healing. So maybe meaningful conversations or communications, maybe just some personal reflection, and maybe even understanding some old wounds from a new type of perspective. And, if Mercury is about communication and understanding, and Chiron is about healing, maybe sometimes healing begins when we finally find the language for something that we've carried, when we finally have a deeper understanding of something. So I would say pay attention to conversations and communication and understanding on Monday the 8th, on Tuesday the 9th. This is the day where Venus is conjunct Cancer, and this is really a day where our heart is going to expand. It's the signature aspect of the week. And, Venus and Jupiter are generally considered to be benefic planets. And when they're coming together, they're conjoined, they're going to amplify their themes: love, generosity, gratitude, emotional abundance, connection, as well as nourishment. And because this is in the sign of Cancer, the crab, these themes are going to be deeply personal. And it's going to be a day and a week for us to really appreciate the things that nourish us, appreciate the people and the things in our world that support us, and maybe even, root chakra type actions, connecting with where we live, connecting with our home, nurturing our emotional life. And so this aspect, which is exact on June 9th, but it's operational throughout this week, can really feel profoundly restorative. And if the previous months have felt intense, and we're in the middle of this roller coaster, as it were, of transformation, this particular aspect offers a reminder that joy and support and love and goodness are still absolutely present. And we're reminded that what we focus on expands. So it's a really wonderful day to celebrate the things that nourish us. Moving on to Wednesday, June 10th. Wednesday, June 10th is a day of reality as well as perspective. We have Mercury squaring Saturn bright and early in the morning, just before 2 a.m. Mercury is in Cancer. It's going to square up to Saturn, which is in Aries. And so maybe this is going to give us some serious thinking, some reconsideration of our plans, some really realizing and working with practical realities. Caveat that, Saturn and Aries, if it gets a little too tense, there might be a tendency towards being overly critical of ourselves. And it's important to remember that Saturn isn't here to discourage us. The planet of karma is here to make sure that everything that we really want to build in this 3D world can be built with as much staying power and as much authenticity and as possible. So Saturn's here to help us strengthen the 3D real world. At 2 p.m., we have two more aspects this day. And at 2, we have Venus biquintiling the North Node. And so this is a really subtle but beautiful influence. It's about relationships and creativity and justice and harmony and balance and where we're and orienting all that towards why we're here and where we're headed. So, there might be some synchronicities, excuse me, that happen on this day, and they might carry more significance than just being some tiny little coincidence. Finally, on Wednesday the 10th, we have the Sun sesquiquadrate Pluto at close to 11 p.m., and this is going to close the day with some intensity, maybe some internal pressure. In its dark side, it might be some power struggles, but really it's about deeper truths that are emerging. And so, as with everything, it's important for us to look at, if we're ever trying to force something, to follow the flows instead of to try to fit a square peg into a round hole. And also, where instead of forcing something, is there a way that we can express ourselves more? Is there a way that we can add honesty, even more, another layer of our truth to the equation? Thursday, June 11th is a pretty quiet day. I like to think of those days as days of integration. And really, this week, it's a welcome pause because the first half of the week is so big and so beautiful. And I think Thursday is really just a day to allow all that energy to integrate and to settle. And on Friday, Friday's a Friday and Saturday are big days. And that's why I said there's these two different themes of energy that are kind of moving through this week. And Uranus is going to square the North Node at around 3 a.m., 3:20 a.m. on Friday the 12th. And Uranus squaring the North Node is really, it's a turning point for us evolutionarily. Is that a word? I think it's one of the more important aspects of the week. Uranus is in Gemini and it's squaring both nodes, actually. So collectively, this is suggesting maybe some unexpected developments, some shifts in direction, some accelerated change. And, as is Uranus's want, some disruption of old, outdated patterns, maybe even some evolutionary pressure to make some shifts. So, personally, we may really feel that we have a desire for freedom. We may find that we have some unexpected realizations, and maybe even just this awareness that, change is afoot and that things or something is no longer able to remain as it has been. And while that might sound a little bit uncomfortable, it's about awakening, and it's about there's another level where I think at a soul and a gut and a heart level, we're going to realize that, Uranus is inviting us to expand and to evolve with the energies of the times. And then let's get to Saturday, June 13th. I mentioned that Venus enters Leo on Saturday the 13th, and that's the major energetic shift that I was referring to. This happens just before 7 a.m. And, there was a lot of Cancer earlier in the week. Venus moving into Leo is going to change the emotional and collective atmosphere noticeably. Venus in Leo is going to bring confidence. It's going to bring creativity and visibility and generosity and joy and really the opportunity for heart-centered leadership. So, on the one hand, where Cancer might say what feels safe and what feels nourishing, Leo's going to say what makes my heart come alive, what makes me shine and sparkle. And so over the coming weeks, this is just the beginning of this energy. And, we're going to be invited to create, to express ourselves, to really celebrate the things that bring us joy and make us feel alive. And it's a really beautiful and I think welcome shift. We have two more aspects on Saturday, and the first is Venus is going to square Chiron at 1 a.m. And, it's interesting to me that Venus shifts into Leo on the same day that it squares Chiron. And this really suggests that the path toward that greater confidence that I was referring to um, may also require some healing. And maybe that's the first step. Maybe we'll touch on an old wound about our visibility, about our self-expression, about our worthiness for the spotlight, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be an actual spotlight. It can be an energetic spotlight. But that's about, something that we're just passing through. It's not somewhere that we're stuck. It's a brief energy. It's not a setback. It's an invitation to really bring compassion to the places that feel tender. We also have Jupiter by quintile the North Node at 9:36 a.m. And this is a subtle blessing. Where Venus was conjunct Jupiter earlier in the week. Now Jupiter on the same day Venus is activating in Cancer. Jupiter is going to help us remember that growth and purpose are there with creative alignment. And it's really inviting us to stay open to any unexpected opportunities as well, because the North Node is where we're headed and it's subtle energy and it's about our expansion. Oh, wait, I have two more. I said there were two more. There's a lot going on Saturday. There's actually two more aspects I want to talk about that happen in the evening. Mars is going to be semi-square to Neptune around 6:30. And Neptune's energy can feel a little bit diffuse. And so maybe it'll feel like there's lack of clarity around action. And that's because when Neptune is afoot, it's about seeing beyond the first veneer of reality. And so really it's not a day to, again, force energy or force decisions. It's a day to follow the energy and to trust our intuition and to really allow our intuition to guide us. And then the last aspect of the week is around 9:40 on Saturday evening, and that is Mercury sesquiquadrant to the North Node. And that might be a reminder that we are absolutely in the middle of a transformation process, that now is not the time to force things to be done and to declare that we understand. This is about allowing things to be in the middle and maybe allowing uncertainty to be a part of the process. So, InSound this week brings healing conversations, emotional nourishment, gratitude and connection, and really evolutionary awakening. And, it invites us to ask, can we receive support before trying to do more? Can we allow our heart to be nourished before asking it to lead? Can we make sure that we're deeply rooted as we're wanting to expand? And also on a fundamental level, can we really trust that joy is not separate from our path, that we are meant to be joyful beings? And so I feel, with Venus moving into Leo, the next chapter isn't simply about healing. It's about expressing what is being healed. It's about being a part of the transformation. All right, guys, have a blessed week. I will see you in a little bit with a meditation for this week. Take good care. Blessings and love.